All right. So, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to What's the Tea with SSFS, which is South Suburban Family Shelter. Again, if this is your first time tuning in, or maybe it's not, What's the Tea is basically where we showcase different departments and different topics on here every week, every Tuesday at 2 o'clock p.m. So my name is Angela Davis. I am the community educator here at South Suburban Family Shelter. So first I want to just encourage you all to get your tea, get your cup, whatever you are drinking. Also, I am in a lot of orange because today is Orange for Love Day for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So for those that are tuning in, if you don't have anything orange, just pause for a minute and go grab a shirt that's orange or something like that. Take a picture and pub it. So yes, today is Orange for Love Day. Okay, so today we are here with Dr. Adams. Hi, Miss Adams. How are you?
I am well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. So first, I just want to thank you so much for being on today's tea episode. I just feel like you have a lot of experience with this topic here that we're talking about today. So like I said, this month is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So a lot of our segments are centered around, teens and adolescents. So today we are going to be talking about consent. And consent, it's a very important topic, especially when you're working with teens or adolescents. That's a very important topic. So just to get in the flow of things, if you want to tell us a little bit about you, what agency you're representing today. So yeah, pass it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Davis. I am excited to be here. And yes, I love teens. On today, I am representing the NuVision Princess of Illinois 501c3 non for profit organization, where I am the founder and the executive director. And we are actually celebrating 10 years this year of being in existence. So I'm really excited to be on here with you today for Teen Dating Violence Month. So thank you.
Oh my God. Well, congrats on that. That is great. That is great to still be flourishing and thriving and making a difference after 10 years. So, congratulations to you.
Thank
Okay, so just to kind of start off, what brought you to this work with high school students and the Supportive Girls Group? What brought you here?
Well, it all started in like 2007 in my mom's living room in Ford Heights. I remember I would like just talk to my sisters, and then some of their friends would come over and we would be having conversations. So that's where it all began, the inception of me having the love to really, talk to girls, to mentor them, to help them understand their identity, who they are, so they can understand their purpose, why they're here. And from there, it took off. And next thing you know, it became something bigger than I was anticipating. I just wanted to give back and keep it moving. But somehow, I guess my heart got involved and I got stuck. And it's something that's always a part of me. And I guess I'll be doing this for the rest of my life.
Oh my God, I love it. And just, it started in a living room, your mom's living room. Like, that's something you'll just never forget. And I really like that. It's like you planted a seed and you just watched everything just grow and blossom. And I know sometimes sitting back as, a business owner or, a CEO or a leader of substance, you just look back like, wow, I did that.
In amazement, you don't know where it's actually going to go. You're just being led to, give those words of encouragement, help out where you can, and then you'll see the fruit of that labor come to fruition. So it's awesome to see the young ladies.
Wow, well, congrats with that. So, what do you enjoy most about this work? I'm sure it's probably a lot of different things, but if you could pick a few, what do you enjoy most?
Well, what I enjoy most, first of all, is that the young ladies actually trust me enough to want to come and talk to me because they don't have to talk to me. So for them to actually be able to see something within me, to know that I care. I always say they don't care how many degrees you have, what letters behind your name. they need to know you care first. And then once you do that, it helps, to develop that relationship. So just even the past week, I got calls from young ladies that I was mentoring, and for them to tell me the seeds that I've sown in their life, they're now sharing them with their parents and, speaking to them like, hey, mom, so to see that they actually took what I shared with them, applied it to their lives, and now they're able to share it with someone else. So each one reach one. And I think
I like
that's
that.
the biggest thing for me, to see them actually take it, implement it, and then be able to share it with someone else. That's the most important thing for me.
I like that. I really like that. And you brought up something important, which we're going to touch on later in this episode, is about that trust and them being able to trust you. And I know from with us working together, you seem to be very just down to earth and authentic, which really plays a role in that trust aspect as well. So, wow, okay, that's interesting. So, let's see. So we offer a lot of trainings at our agency, but we also talk about the importance of consent. So how do you think this impact you?
Well, when I think of consent, first of all, I was asking some youth, like, what does consent mean? Do you know what they was like, come what? Like, and I know, like, coming from a psychology background, we have to get consent from the parents if we're talking to a minor, when it comes to, because there are some things that we will have to disclose if it comes down to, them hurting themselves or hurting someone else. So when I think of consent, from, since we're talking about teen dating violence from a different perspective as well, I mean, when it comes to consent, I feel like it lets you know that you have a voice, that you matter. Because if I don't give my consent, it shuts everything down. It's, that's how it's supposed to go, because I'm not willing to talk. So it's that agreement that, we're coming together. And if you're proposing something to me or to, whomever, there has to be a mutual agreement. Do I agree to what you're saying? Because if I don't, it stops right here.
Right.
And when it comes to young people, I really think, consent is very important for them to understand what consent is in the state of Illinois. If you're coming to sex dating and those things, there's an age of consent that's required. And if I don't know what it is, I can let people just cross all over my boundaries. I can just, let whatever happens. So it's huge for them to understand what consent is and that their voice does matter.
You said something very interesting about with you having this trust aspect with the girls and the teens that you work with, they are able to go home and speak to their parents about it. Personally, me being in schools and giving these presentations on teen dating violence or family violence, I hear a lot from the students like, we didn't get talked about this at home. My mama or my dad didn't teach me about teen dating violence. It's just more so like I went through it and it didn't feel good. And now I'm hearing it from you now that I see that it's okay. So now that we're talking about the aspect of consent, right? I know a lot of teens or adolescents may not be very comfortable in even going to their parents to talk about things like that, but it's so important because I would think that, because we do bro groups and we have to have consent from their parents as well. So, them thinking, oh, okay, you need consent, in case I talk about harming myself or somebody else. Oh, okay. But I don't know if they really put it into context. What does it mean for you? So have you found that teens are aware of the importance of consent, or do you think that's something that they're not really thinking about too much?
And that was a really good question too, because when I was asking some of the young ladies about consent, I don't really think they understand the true essence of what consent is. And for me, that's why I keep saying that your voice matters, because you do have a say so in the situation. And if they truly understood what consent is, I think that's where we develop that high level of self-esteem as well, because now I know who I am. I don't have to agree with everything my peers are telling me to do or saying. I don't have to do and become what I'm seeing in, in the media. I have a voice and I can use my voice. If I don't agree with what you're saying, I'm not going to go along just to get along. So
Yeah.
when they truly understand how huge that is for them, meaning I can exercise my rights. I know the power that I hold, that I possess. So they don't know. But I think the conversation today, and then of course I'm meeting with the young ladies of NuVision Princess tomorrow. And I was thinking, I was like, hey, we're going to talk about some of these things that we're talking about today because me growing up as a teenager, I didn't talk to my parents about any of these things. I didn't trust anybody because some of the things, some of the trauma or ACEs as we call it now, some of the things that I had experienced even as a child myself, I wasn't open enough to tell people that was going on with me, what I was dealing with. So that's another reason, a huge reason that I'm like an advocate for these young ladies because I want them to feel safe to come to me, to talk to me, because I'm gonna give it to you in the real. And this is something that I never felt
Yep.
comfortable enough, even talking to my parents. I'm the oldest daughter out of 15. I have an older brother. So I just never felt, that my voice mattered. And now here I am trying to help other young ladies understand that you can give consent and no is an answer. That's going to help you to be, to get that confidence because what you have to say is important and I want to hear it. And you don't have to be like everybody else. Be yourself. Stand in your truth.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
see, that's the real tea, y'all. This is why I have Dr. Adams on here because I knew that this will be the conversation. And like she said, she's going to give it to you raw. And, I've always been interested in that aspect of mentoring and, things of that nature, maybe due to, like you said, the trauma of what I went through, it's as if you have a purpose or obligation to try to teach other people, not saying that you can't make any mistakes, but let me give you some tools and some seeds for you to apply to your own life because these conversations was not talked about, not
Yep.
at all. It's like once you hear consent or dating or even sex, is like, oh, well,
Yep. Shut it down.
which no, and it's one of those things where unfortunately we're not saying to tell your kids, oh really, come on, let's talk about. I've been waiting for this, but it's still a conversation that needs to be held because sometimes as parents we are so fearful of what we went through
Yep.
as a child. It's like, okay, let me act like this is just a perfect world and none of this happens. You're not going to think about none of that. And now teens are out here experiencing things on their own and partaking in situations where you don't even have the full correct knowledge of this topic, like being in school speaking to young men. I always tell them, I'm like, just as if you want somebody to ask for your pen or ask for your pencil in school, you need to ask a young lady if you can hold her hand or
Yep.
if you can do any of that, because there's also, which is a whole nother thing, the sexual assault aspect or the sexual harassment aspect, so
Yep.
consent is very important because then there's not any blurred lines. A clear yes or a clear no really validates a lot.
Yes. And
Oh,
I completed this 40-hour domestic violence training. And one of the first cases that I witnessed when I went to the courthouse was teens, the young man and the young lady. And I was just like heartbroken because here I am trying to save the world, volunteering. I was a CASA representative, going to the juvenile centers to talk to the girls. So, yeah, consent is huge. When you really understand, your voice matters. There are some things you can stand up and let me tell people this is what's going on,
right.
please help me, but when we don't really understand, we just go along to get along and take whatever. So it's important that you are sharing that, in the schools and within the communities to help the young ladies so they'll know, your voice matters as well as
Yeah.
a young man.
And that's why these mentoring groups really help because I do agree that your voice also aligns with your self-esteem. And sometimes when we grow up, everybody else could think you pretty, but it all depends on how you feel about yourself. And if your self-esteem is low, then you tend to have that passive attitude to a lot of things where it's just like you're not using your voice as you should, you
Because you're
know?
not sure, you're not clear. And it's like if I had that, someone tell, Denise, your voice matters, speak up. speak up. It's okay. Find you a trusted and a trusted advisor. Find an advocate, someone that you can go and talk to. And that's how, even when I talk to like my nieces and things of that nature, I'm like, are you talking to me as an aunt or are you talking to me as a mandated reporter? Because I don't want to cross the lines. How are you coming?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come to you with the truth, but certain things, if you say this, it might have to be reported. So I just want to, just let them know I'm here for you. And that's where I am now. Let's talk about it. Let's help save some of these young ladies so they don't have to go through some of the things that I went through, or yourself, because now we're speaking up and we understand. Maybe my mom wasn't, maybe she wasn't comfortable talking to me about that. I wasn't comfortable going to her. But as life continued to happen, it's like somebody got to stand up and say something.
Yeah, you got to learn how to break those generational curses because if everybody is just not comfortable in talking about things, it's just going to keep going,
That's
And
exactly what you
sometimes, yeah, your own upbringing and your own trauma really mold you into thinking, okay, that wasn't right. Or, I wanted this to be better. I want that line of communication to be better. So let me help other young, women or men that need this. So
Yep.
yeah, I agree because it's hard for, which we'll get into as well, to find those trusted adults, right?
Yes.
So, Dr. Adams, what is your definition of consent? I know there's a lot of definitions and, but just if you were talking to teens right now, what would you tell them consent is?
We kind of talked about it, alluded to it just a little bit in the beginning, but when one person voluntarily agrees, like if you suggest something to me and I say, okay, well, that sounds good. I'll go with you. Let's go to this party. Let's go to the mall or whatever. So I'm voluntarily agreeing with what you just proposed to me. So when I think of consent, because I probably was thinking about it from a dating perspective, but
Yeah.
when it comes to consent, my voice still matters. It doesn't matter. Would you like to go to the grocery store? Yes or no? My voice matters. I don't have to go just because this is where you're going and I think I need to be there or I feel like I'm obligated. I'm comfortable now. So if I don't want to do something, I don't, I'm not going to do it. So for me, consent is when I'm voluntarily agreeing to something that has been proposed to me, no matter what it is. Would you like a glass of water? No, thank you. Whatever. Would you like a drink? No, thank you. Would you like, to smoke this or what? No, thank you. So consent is if I'm voluntarily agreeing to something that someone is proposing to me, whatever it is. If I don't agree with it, I'm gonna be comfortable saying no.
Right. And that's me not giving you my consent.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how would you talk about this issue with the youth that you work with? I know that sometimes it's consent is like boom, there's probably no easy way to ease it in, but how do you talk about it with the youth you work with?
With the young ladies. And it's so important too, because when I address in the non-for-profit, I work with girls from like 9 to 19, and
Okay.
then some that's even older. So
So
interesting
a
because
lot of different language.
yes, yes. So what's most important to me, first of all, is understanding the audience. So depending upon the audience, I want to make sure I'm using my language, I'm curtailing my language so that they can understand it. So if I'm talking to someone, which I, tend to talk to young ladies, and even when my daughter was away at college, they would like call me to talk to people. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. So when I would talk to, the young ladies, when it comes to consent, I usually try to do like share examples to get them involved. And so let me present this scenario to you.
Okay, yeah, we love
And
scenarios and make it feel more real.
and then they can like visualize what I'm saying too, and they
Right.
can relate to it. So presenting examples and different things to them and say, okay, if you find yourself in this situation, how do you think so and so needs to respond? And then based on, I'll let them answer. I don't want to say your answer is wrong,
Right.
that's
Right.
great. Can, someone else add to that? So when I'm talking to them and we're talking about consent, it's just asking them, if I'm telling you, okay, get up and we're going to go here and let's do this. And, you have a say in it. Do you want to go or don't you? So I still need your permission. I'm proposing this idea to you, but you don't necessarily have to agree with it. So I try to just put it in the language where they can explain it. So if I have to write up scenarios, like I said, and put it on the board so they can see it or whatever. I make sure that whatever age level that I'm dealing with, they understand your voice matters and you have to agree in order for it to be consent.
Right. That's
So,
a great way of looking at that. That's a great way. And like I said, really put in the context that we're teaching with real life scenario really helps people get into somebody else's shoes, like put you in that visionary to really understand what it is you're trying to say. So
yes.
I
And
definitely
then
agree.
also, looking at different things that's going on in the news, like the thing when violence with I know it's kind of outdated, but like Chris Brown and Rihanna. It's like
Yeah,
stuff that they can relate to. So when
I
I do
still
my
use
research,
that example. I
yeah,
still use it, and
okay.
it's so funny now because if I'm talking to younger, they're like, "Oh my God, really?" And I'm like, yeah, oh, I forgot your age." But no, seriously, real life news situations. I love looking at that because, of course, how heart wrenching it is. It
Hmm.
makes it even more real because this
Yeah.
is what's going on, whether it's in your neighborhood, in the city. This is happening in your back door.
Yes, almost like coming to school when we used to have to do those current events. Let me see what's going on out here because you can help me understand it. And if I can present it to them, now they can start thinking of other situations. Maybe I had a friend that was in a situation and they didn't have anybody to talk to and they didn't understand, like what consent is. So I'm planting the seed in them. And now they're going to be able to help some of their friends that may not have a trusted advisor that they can talk to. So it,
Right.
it goes deeper than what we see. So looking at what's going on in the real world, sharing that with them, and this is how we transform lives. We're impacting lives.
I love it. I really love your outlook on it and everything. So, as we're talking about consent, there's also the topic of conversation when, especially talking to teens or even college students that they don't tend to think about. How does drugs or alcohol play a role in someone's ability to give their consent? Because a lot of times people think, something happened yesterday and they wake up, maybe they feel as though something that they regret or they wish they wouldn't have done it, and maybe that those aspects of drugs and alcohol played a role in the decision making. So how does this come into foreplay?
And that's really good too. Understanding the definition of what consent is. So now we're looking at it from another perspective. Now I might be intoxicated, incapacitated, where I can't really think clearly. Yes, I might be in the state of Illinois. 17 is the legal age for consent. So just because I'm 17, but if I'm incoherent, if I'm impaired, if my speech is slurred, I can't, I don't remember my birth date, what day of the week it is. Just because I'm of age doesn't mean that I'm giving reasonable consent because technically I'm not in my right mind. I've been indoctrinated with something,
Right.
smoking, whatever it is. So, in that sense, whoever it is, that will be a question for them. This person is not really thinking clearly. They're not functioning properly because now they're, falling over, can't walk straight. So now I have to stop and think, this is maybe something that we just want to pass on. I don't even want to ask them the question because I know they're not where they would be if they were not intoxicated, with alcohol or drugs or anything of that nature. So just because I'm of age to give consent, but if I'm not functioning properly at that time, I'm not necessarily giving you consent because I'm incoherent.
Exactly. Exactly. And when explaining this to teens, sometimes they're like, What? Well, you said it, but you are under the influence,
Right.
And then it's also really important. I know that could be a whole nother conversation, but it's really important to also know that whether you're under the influence or sober, if you say yes and then in the process, oh no, you know what? I changed my mind. And I have to tell young men, I don't care what's going on.
Yep.
If they change their mind to say no, then the answer is no. And
Yeah.
that's just what it is. So I think also too, want teens to understand you could said yes 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
If you change your mind, that's you using your voice, as Dr. Adams will say. You are
Yeah.
using your voice, and that is okay too. So
Yes.
that's another thing that people really, especially that could be taken advantage of if that person is under the influence, right?
Yeah.
Because then you try to persuade what you just tripping right now. You just da da da. You said yes. Why you changing your mind? That can make a person become passive with their answer as well and unsure after
Yes.
being under the influence, and if you feel like you're being manipulated or talked into something that you're not truly comfortable with.
Yes.
So that is another reason why making decisions like that under the influence is also not the best
Never
decision.
good, right?
No,
Never good.
no,
Right.
no.
And that's another good thing too, because you can see like football stars in the news. Again, I always go back to, the news, something that they can relate to. They have you a star. Hey, you the big thing going on campus, whatever. I
Right.
want to, get with you. And then, you start bagging back and saying, I don't want to do this now, whatever. And they carry on. Now we're in court. The law enforcement are involved. It's a whole nother ball game. So if someone is um, intoxicated, incapacitated, just let them be. Don't be so desperate and thirsty that you want to do whatever you want to do for you for selfish reasons. I don't care what part of the act you are in. If someone says no, you respect those boundaries and you move around.
And we see right now what's going on with the allegations with T.I. and Tiny, his wife. So that's another thing. They talked a lot about these women being under the influence. So if individuals are not aware of that story, if you look up T.I. and Tiny, they are going through a situation where a lot of sexual assault, sexual harassment allegations.
Mhm.
So this is all coming back to that consent, because each one of these survivors or victims that's coming out with their stories were said to have been forced to use drugs or was under the use of drugs or alcohol. So this plays a large role in consent because half of them wasn't even able to function to validate their voice. So
Right.
that is exactly what we're talking about.
Yep, they were being manipulated to help them alter, from their normal state of being.
Exactly, exactly. Because maybe they know sober that
I'm
person
not
would
going to
not
do it,
consent.
right?
Exactly, right. So as we're talking about this, and now we're getting into these healthy aspects, right? So what are some different ways someone can communicate their boundaries? How can a teenager or just anyone, whether it's friendship, whether it's dating, how could they respectively, state their boundaries?
Well, for me, what I would tell them is, of course, use your voice, say what those boundaries are. Hopefully, you know what your boundaries are. Just examining past relationships or whatever was not healthy, whatever made you hurt, what you didn't like. Set your standards from there and these boundaries and communicate those to individuals, whether it's a family member, a relationship, work relationship, whatever kind of relationship it is, because you will know those triggers. If somebody says something and you ready to pop off, it's like,
Right.
hey. So by setting these boundaries, it lets you know this is what I'm willing to accept. This is what I'm not willing to accept. And if you do this, apparently you're not my friend or you don't want us to be friends because when you do this, this is how it makes me feel. I'm uncomfortable. I'm angered. I'm frustrated. And if you cannot, co-mingle with me, co-communicate with me without crossing these lines, then maybe we don't need to be friends.
Mhm.
Maybe we don't
I
need to be.
really like that. Yep, it's like you're clearly stating what you will and what you won't deal with. And I
Yeah.
know speaking with teens, I try to get them do a healthy relationship exercise, and I say, hey, write one thing on a sheet of paper, something you like in a friendship, in a relationship, write something you don't like. So, if I'm sitting here stating all through my friendships, I don't like liars, and then my friend lies to me, what are you gonna do? Because it's like, oh, okay, it's okay, it happens. Now they know that boundary can be tilted a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, and now it's like, okay, you say that you don't like liars, but I mean, you forgave me.
Got
You
away with it, right? Yeah.
exactly. So I really like that being able to really state your boundaries, and it's just think even if you're not even in the space of dating or old enough to date, you can still state those boundaries with friends, because sometimes friends have a good influence on you and sometimes they can have a bad influence on you. So it's
Yeah,
just like, who are you and how are you using your voice to make your stand?
absolutely. Because if we keep giving in to them, even though I said I don't like liars and you keep lying to me. So now what? I'm questioning who I am. Well, maybe I do like liars, you know?
Right.
So
And
it's
now
like,
I'm questioning everything that you said from here on out. And that's how it becomes toxic, because just like, you're still my friend, but I don't trust you.
right.
So,
So now,
so okay. So we talked a lot about trust and you being able to build that rapport of trust. And just coming from a perspective of speaking in schools, that's very important. That's very important. And they really want to know that I trust you,
yeah.
because their favorite line is, I don't trust nobody. I only trust myself, you know. So how have you showcased to your group, your supportive groups, that you are trustworthy? And how can adults take on this responsibility to show that I'm trustworthy and you can confide in me, truly confide in me? You know, okay, confidentially, if you are trying to hurt yourself or someone else, of course, I would have to report that. But other than that, how could adults show? You know, I feel like a lot of adults is like, oh, I wish they talked to me. I wish my kid talked to me. I wish he or she just talked to me a little bit more and let me in. But how can they do that?
And that's a very, very important question because, sometimes as adults, we feel like we have all the answers. So the way that I get them to trust me is by actively listening. I'll just like sit, let them get it out, let them talk to me. And then when they're ready for me to, share some input with them, some insight, at that time I'll do it. Also, another thing that I do with them is like once we've spoken, and then I'll see them later. I'm checking in with them. I'm following up like, hey, how's that situation going? How's the baby? How's this? Whatever it is that we talked about. I'm letting them know not only did I listen, but I'm concerned for your well-being. So I'm checking back in with you like, hey, did everything go okay with that situation? You talking to your parents now? So they not only see that, oh, Dr. Adams is listening, she's actually checking in on me to make sure everything is good. And by doing that, they're feeling safe with me because I'm not out here, sharing their business and telling other people what we talked about. It's just important sometimes to just listen. And then when they need that input, I think because, like you said earlier, too, just being authentic and, being genuine and doing it in love because I care. I'm a mom first anyway. I have grown children, but I had to mother them. So for me to be, and I have, of course, I told you 15 siblings. So I have a
Yeah.
large family, host of nieces and nephews. So just being able to, I don't know, maybe it's that motherly thing, but because I truly care and I
And this is
listen
your
to them.
passion, though, you know, to help others and to give back to others. So, you know, everybody can have that sense of sympathy, but do you have that sense of empathy? Because a lot of times I don't need you to sympathize with me. I don't need you to feel bad. I just need to talk to somebody. And
Yes.
you hear a lot of students in school that's like, nah, because this teacher be telling my business and this teacher told that person, and I'm not about to talk to them. You know, so that's another thing, you know, and I always have to let them know, because that one or two people did that don't mean all your teachers are like that, you
That's correct.
know.
That
So
is
you have to find that safe person. And honestly, sometimes somebody outside the family, somebody who just don't even know you, is sometimes best, you know, because you can really give me a whole new outlook on it, a
right.
whole new
And they're not
perspective.
judging you. And that's one of the things,
Exactly.
like I said, studying psychology early on, it's like I'm not a psychologist. I am an IO psychology major. So, but when the clients come in, it's like you don't want to be biased. So I don't want to be biased to you. Like I done heard this 100 times today. Each student that come or young person that I work with within the community within New Vision Princess, when they come, it's like I'm hearing it as if this is the first time I heard it because it's coming from a different person. So my perspective and the views that I'm sharing with them is fresh. It's not like a one size fit all. It's not ready made. It's unique based upon your situation. It's still aligned with my principles and values, but I'm giving it to you, hot off the press. This is what,
Right.
can help you in that situation. So just being able to have adults, like you said, everybody's not alike, but they know who cares,
Exactly.
who's
They
taking
feel
time
it.
with them.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they
and I was just thinking that even coming from my perspective of growing up, I think another thing adults or parents can do as well is, you know, when you say that you want a child or a student or a mentee to come to you and, really let you in, be ready for what they have to say. Because, sometimes as parents, it's like, come talk to me, come talk to me, come talk to me, come talk to me. And the minute I'm like, okay, let me come talk to you. Now it's like, I should never did that, or you weren't ready for the conversation,
yeah,
you weren't ready for that, or, um, you know, it was just too much,
yeah, heavy.
So I think that's another thing. If you genuinely want someone to trust you and confide in you, it's just like your girlfriends or your friends, you have to give them a reason to, and keeping that communication open is very important, especially right now, these students being in the house 24/7 with their parents and stuff. Those risk factors and those protective factors are so high right now, and it's
Yeah,
molding them, and it's molding their brain, and it's molding their mindsets. Absolutely.
yeah.
But this
So
is great.
yeah.
Well, this was great. I really, really, really appreciate you. Before I close out, is there anything else you'd like to share or anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to encourage, all the young people that may be going through some things, definitely try to find an trusted advisor, trusted adult, minister, or whoever it may be, that you can trust and that you can talk to, because we all need someone to talk to. And especially this time is a little bit more sensitive than normal. So we want to make sure, that you're all safe. So find that trusted advisor. Thank
I
you.
agree. I second that. I second that. So I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. I hope this was a great episode for you all. I hope you all were able to learn a lot. Please, if you do not know about her agency, New Visions, say it again, New Visions.
New Vision Princess of Illinois.
Okay. I got it right. I just had to make sure. Please look that up. If you have any nieces, daughters, granddaughters, whoever that need this support system, do that as well. And if you are looking for presentations, anyone on here, we do give presentations to teens and adolescents. So feel free to comment below any questions you have, any interesting facts or knowledge you'd like to share on consent as well. And we encourage you all to just stay tuned for the next episode. Same time, same place, different team. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.